My project was the Planetary Odyssey game, where the goal of the game was to explore a number of planets of the user's choosing without running out of crew members or fuel. So the ship class holds the information about how many crew members, the amount of fuel, and the amount of money the user has. Most of these member functions are very straightforward and very simple getter and setter functions. The setter functions for money, fuel, and crew require a multiplier, which will be 1 or -1 to indicate if the resource is being increased or decreased. The variables are all protected so that the derived classes can access them. There are 4 derived classes from ship. That includes the starter ship, the small ship, the medium ship, and the large ship. The starter ship initializes the number of crew, the number of fuel, and the amount of money that you have if you're starting a new game. Everyone starts with a starter ship, and each of these derived classes have an overload constructor for whenever you need to change the ship type when you're purchasing an upgrade. These are some uses of the ship pointer in the main function when the user is purchasing something from the shop. On the left is the function called when the user wants to upgrade their ship, and ship upgrades happen linearly, so you can only progress from starter to small to medium to large ship. On the right is the implementation of increasing a resource, with exceptions for if the user doesn't have enough money or is at the max amount of resource that their particular ship type allows. So random events can happen on any planet. Since the result and the change in resource is determined by the user, the print ending function always has to be called before attempting to change a ship's resources so that the multiplier and the resource type can be initialized. There are 2 derived classes of a random event. They are both a strange alien approaching, but they are 2 different endings, where one class is it's a good thing if you interact with the alien, and the other class is where it's a bad thing if you interact with the alien. Okay, this is how the random event is implemented. On the left is what one of the derived classes looks like, where in this case it is when you interact with a stranger, that's a good thing, and it has the good ending where you do interact with a stranger and the multiplier is 1, so you're gaining resources, or it has the bad ending where the multiplier is -1, you're losing a resource. On the right is how a random event is implemented in the main code. First, it creates a random event pointer, and it generates a random number to assign that pointer, whether it's a good thing to interact with the stranger or it's a bad thing to interact with them. And then it takes in the response of the user of if they want to interact or not, and compares it based off of the derived class, what is the correct answer. After it prints out the ending that the user chose, it then changes the appropriate resource. Next is the planet base class and its derived classes. There are 4 types of derived classes that are different planet types. They are rocky, ocean, gas, and tundra. And on the right is the .h file for the planet base class. The majority of the functions are called using inheritance, so there's not a lot of functions used in the derived classes. There is operator overloading for creating the planet array and for loading in a saved file. The variables, you'll notice there's a difficulty pointer, and then the atmosphere, crew, fuel, and money are initialized with the set difficulty pointer, and then the message number, the resource, the multiplier, the planet type, and art are all initialized in the derived classes when you call those constructors. And there's a sample of that on the left, where this is the ocean constructor, and it sets the art, and then it also takes in a random number to generate what the explore event is going to be. Alright, so these are all functions in the main CPP file. You'll notice that a lot of these have the planet number -1. That's because in order to output the messages correctly, I decided to have the planet number be the literal planet number that it is. On the left is creating a new planet array. In the middle is using the planet array pointer to execute the explore event and change the resource based on the explore event. And on the right is, at the very end of the game, the function iterates through the planet array to count the total amount of each planet type that the player visited. This is the ASCII art that I used for each of the planet types. The difficulty class and its derived classes are just made to create the difficulty of a planet. There's simple getter functions, and then each derived class, there's easy, medium, and hard. has different amounts for the variables. The main uses 16 functions to implement the actual gameplay, 6 functions relating to outputting something, be that a menu or a prompt. There are 3 functions that are used to dynamically allocate something, or there are 5 functions that are game events, and then there are 2 check functions which are used to make sure the player hasn't reached 0 or reached the max crew amount, things like that. The menus use the go-to functionality that I learned from cppreference.com, which allows the code to continuously jump back and forth between different menu options and to run different functions. There are a few areas that require exception handling for the menus that, due to time constraints, I wasn't able to create the try, catch, and throw exceptions for them. Next is creating and loading save files, where on the left is part of the code for loading a saved file. It's a very lengthy function. I wasn't able to put it all in here. But this particular section is about creating the planet array. The picture on the right is actually creating the save file. And the format of the save file is, it first has the number of planets that the user has already visited, then the number of planets that they challenged, or the number of planets until you win. Then you have the number planet where the random event is supposed to happen, which is always generated when you first create a game and it never changes. Next, you have the ship type, which is a string, and the current amount of crew, fuel, and money. These 3 variables on the right are all in a loop, where it has the planet type, which will be rocky planet, gas, ocean, or tundra, the difficulty number, and then the number that the message has, which will be a number from 0 to 5. Finally is the gameplay implementation, where first you will enter a planet's atmosphere and lose some fuel based on difficulty of that planet. Then it calls the explore event of that planet, which will either cause you to gain or lose resources. And then the code checks to make sure that your crew and fuel are not 0, and also that you don't obtain too many of a resource when your ship type doesn't allow that. And then it outputs your updated resources amount. Then it checks to see if the planet you're currently visiting is the one where the stranger is supposed to pop up, and if it is, then it calls the random event, which will change your resources and check the extremes again. And then, if you've visited all the planets, you win the game, and it goes to the ending screen, which prints a summary and another little graphic. Otherwise, it takes you to a menu to ask if you want to explore the next planet, or buy more resources, or upgrade your ship, or if you want to save your game progress. Okay, this is an example of how someone may use the program. So first you're greeted with a welcome message explaining the game, the goal of the game, things like that. So I'm going to start a new game. I'm going to challenge myself to 5 planets. Okay, so the first planet was a medium rocky planet. I printed out the rocky image and then changed my resource statistics. And the first planet is actually the one where you interact with the alien or not, so I'm going to choose to approach him. And I lost money, that's fine. So now I'm going to explore the next planet. And it gives me the next information. I'm actually now going to save the game. And it tells you that your progress has been saved. It tells you what you've done so far. You'll notice starter ship 7, 22, 75. And then now when I try again, I'm going to load that save. The save file is always output.txt. Right, and then it starts me on the next planet, on the 3rd planet. Changes my resources. I'm still... Nope, I'm gonna start over. Okay, so when you first load the game, you are greeted with a welcome message that explains the game and the goal of the game. So I'm going to start a new game, and I'm going to challenge myself to 5 planets. So it tells you when it creates your starter ship, it gives you your first planet, your message, the explore event, and changes your resources. I'm actually going to upgrade my ship type. So that is number 3. So you'll see now I have a small ship, and before my max amounts were 10 and 30, and now they are 12 and 35. Okay, so I'm going to the next planet. Then it gives that information. Then I'm going to go to next planet. It gives this information. Now I'm actually going to save my game progress. And it will tell you your progress has been saved, 3 out of 5, how many planets you already explored, and you'll notice small ship, 9 out of 12. Okay, so when I run the program again, I'm going to load that save. Right. And then it gives us our next planet, which will be run number 4 now. We still have our small ship, and then 9 out of 12. We've also had our other resources changed from the planet event. And then this is the planet where you encounter the stranger, so I'm going to approach, and I gain money. So next I think I'm going to make a purchase. I'm going to buy some more fuel, and then I'm going to buy 5 fuel, and it increases my fuel and decreases my money. And then explore the final planet, changes your statistics one more time, and you'll see that I've actually maxed out my crew from this last event. And then I won the game. It tells me how many planets I have and your final ship statistics.